there, everybody. We are back. It's Life Downloaded Live, Episode 2. I am Dan Edge here at Casa de Edge once more because we're all still on lockdown. And as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host. The show would never be the same without her. It is the lovely Sam Rank. Say hi, Sam.
Well, hello. This means that you enjoyed our first lockdown edition. We are back. I'm actually really, really excited. I really like doing a live version of Life Downloaded. Although I do really miss you, Dan. I must
Oh.
admit, I miss you. Lola misses you. But we are here and we've got a really special guest. But first of all, a bit of housekeeping. We are live. We are using technology, and we all know technology is temperamental. So bear with us if there's any glitches. Also, this is a adult show, so there might be a few curse words now and again, mostly from me because I am certainly not a lady. Dan is a pure gentleman all the time, and I don't know about Andrew. I don't know our special guest. We'll ask him in a minute if he's no stranger to dropping a couple of curse words. But yes, thank you so much. We really love your feedback on Instagram, Twitter. We're so glad that we can bring you a little bit of joy in these uncertain times. So without further ado, we have got loads to get through it. And also remember, this is completely interactive. Dan is going to be keeping an eye on any questions you have for either one of us or our guest, Andrew. So please interact with us because it's more about you than it is about us prattling on about our lives. So, Dan, would you like to introduce our wonderful guest?
The pressure. Yes,
Pressure.
I will introduce our wonderful guest. Our wonderful guest is the man behind Andrew Roach Talent. He is manager, agent / wonderful person of some of the best deaf and disabled talent you see on your screens and listen to on your radios and so on and so forth. Plus probably a lot of talent besides that I am forgetting. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Andrew Roach. Hey Andrew, how are you doing?
Good
Round
afternoon.
of
How are you going?
applause. Very well, very well.
Good.
We're good. There's your beautiful face. So, Andrew, you are in fact my agent. We've been working together for, I don't know, has it been about a year now?
Is that all?
Is that all? Oh, cheeky. Do you know what? It's been about a year, and I've absolutely loved every moment of it. Not only are you my agent, I think we've kind of bonded, and I would definitely call you my friend. And it's lovely to have an agent that's actually in London, so we meet up quite regularly, don't we?
Indeed.
So we normally go central London, have a cappuccino together, and put the world to rights. And you do have quite a number, as Dan said, quite a number of deaf and disabled artists. But actually, that I know there are agents out there that specifically have, that's their mantra, and they only will take on talent for deaf and disabled people, which in itself is kind of great. But you not to sound crass, but you stumbled upon this kind of becoming this agent for welcoming deaf and disabled artists. Because let's face it, not everyone would have someone with a disability on their books, even to this day. So, I suppose, how did that come about? What have you learned? Has it been as scary as everyone makes out, having people with disabilities, on your books, or actually are you like, do you know what? This is great. My eyes have been opened, and if I get to work with people like Samantha, I can die happy.
So I'd love to say it was a master plan. It wasn't. I'd worked for a couple of agents. I wanted to do my own thing. The first Edinburgh Fringe I went to in 2015, I can't remember, a long time ago, when I'd set up my own. one of the first people I went to see was Juliet Burton, and she was doing a show about body confidence. And within that show, so I loved her, and she was very open about mental health, and she'd interviewed a lot of different people, which she played in as part of that show. One of those people was Adam Pearson. I then started to look after Juliet. We had a meeting. She said, "Oh, my friend Adam's coming. Is that okay at the end? The meeting." I said, "Yeah, sure." Yes, Adam arrived, and within about 30 seconds, I loved him. And he told me what he was doing. I said, "Oh, do you have an agent?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, why don't we meet?" And it literally has just gone from one step to another where, I don't know, you just end up meeting and being contacted by really talented, interesting people. And, my eyes were opened a couple of years ago where somebody actually said to me, "So are you only going to represent disabled people?" And I said, "Well, so what if I do?" But, no, I'm not saying that you've got to pass some kind of disability test, to be represented by me. But likewise, also from a business point of view, it's really a smart move to be known to represent a certain area of talent, and therefore people come to you, and that opens up conversations and meetings, and then I've just become incredibly passionate about it. I think you know me well enough, Sam, that I quite like a fight, not a physical fight.
No.
But
we do have a good old rant, don't we? We have a good old ramble on the phone about the state of the industry as a whole.
I quite enjoy pointing out when things aren't happening. I mean, don't get me wrong, because I want my clients to work, because if my clients don't work, I don't earn any money. But also, morally and ethically, I just think in 2020, it's outrageous that we're actually even at this moment in time having this conversation about it, to be honest.
What has been, honestly, what has been your biggest challenge, I suppose, with representing, people with disabilities that you face? I mean, I know we spoke about a few things yesterday on the phone. I don't want to get into the semantics. We're not here to wag our finger at individual broadcasters or just,
aren't we?
on the. Well, I mean, you can't. I mean, go for it. I mean, this is a safe space. But I suppose, like, because when I talk to people, they kind of go, "Oh, it's not really like that, is it?" And I don't think they kind of believe. I don't think they actually believe how difficult it can be. I mean, Dan, you're an actor as well, aren't you, Dan? Dan, are you there still, my darling?
I am still here, but I wasn't going to interrupt the flow.
No, but I mean, but I think people just don't believe how, even just like the basics of the challenges, people within the creative industry who have got disabilities. What have you found, like, what are your head-banging moments, Andrew, where you're just like, really, where you've put the phone down and you've gone, really? Did that just happen? Are you actually saying that to me? Because I just kind of want, if there's any listeners out there that don't have a disability, I want them to really grasp how tough my job is, how tough Dan's job is, and ultimately, because you're Andrew, you're like the parent of all of us. You're the ones that like keep us in check. Like so I kind of want to know what your biggest gripes are.
My biggest gripe is quite simple. And I wrote about this about a year ago for Broadcast magazine. The thing is that the barriers that people believe exist, I believe, are the ones that they put up themselves and are not actually there in the first place. So that's the first thing. Working with you, Sam, from having worked with lots of different people, who are talent, is exactly the same. Pretty much. Once we communicate what you may need, which by the way is not a huge amount and is not insurmountable, then you just got on with it like anybody else. The thing that I find most frustrating is that there are disabled people out there who are talented, who are ready, willing, and able to work. So just get on and book them, commission them.
Yep.
You know, it's not, and this is the thing that frustrates me the most, is it's not difficult. There's no rocket science to this. There's no, you know, secret code. It's just plain and simple. And therefore, if it's not being done, I don't understand why it's not called out for what it is, as it would be with any other group in you know, who are protected or, you know, an area of diversity, as discrimination. Because if those people are out there and they're not being booked without good reason, well, what else is it?
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where, you know, the disability equality movement and the disabled equality movement, we've spoken about it on the podcast before, is further behind than our fellow diverse groups and their campaigning, whether it be, you know, LGBT, women, people of colour, whatever it may be. And I think there is still a lot of issues, especially in our industry, where, you know, deaf and disabled people are considered too complex, too expensive, too complicated to employ.
Less.
Indeed, less. All of these are complete and utter fallacies.
Yeah.
And we've been at events together before, Andrew. You're not my agent. But we've been.
Is this what are you trying to ask?
Well, I think my current agent might be a bit upset.
Yeah.
But we've been at
It's
events
mine!
before.
Get off him!
We've been at events before, and you've heard me say, if you can get a £65,000 camera up a hill or down a hill, you can get me in my wheelchair up a hill or down a hill. It's not difficult. It's common sense. And I understand for people, you know, that don't deal with being disabled and issues around that daily, that it can be a bit scary and you don't want to say the wrong things or do the wrong things. But you need to take that risk in the first place and employ the talent. And the talent will tell you what they need and what's going to get the best work from them, because essentially I'd assume that that's what every producer, director, all those people want from their talent, is the best performance they can give. So just work with the talent.
There's a lot of subconscious, sorry to interrupt you, there's a lot of subconscious bias and frankly discrimination. And, you know, I don't believe that the majority of people, you know, at all levels and broadcasters and producers are actively discriminating. I really hope that is not the case. But conversely, what they aren't doing, in my opinion, is engaging as much as they should be and just getting on with making actually really basic decisions that actually, apart from the else, when there is such a competition for audiences at the moment, why would you not want to engage with a fifth of the UK population? Why would you not want to engage with the spending power of over £240 billion? Just in terms of basics and business, it makes sense. Forget the ethical and moral, you know, judgment.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I don't understand.
Well,
I think a lot of it is to do with, and again we spoke about this yesterday, the frustration of, I think a lot of broadcasters don't give the general public the benefit of the doubt. I think broadcasters think most people don't want to see, you know, unattractive disabled people on the television screens. I mean, a prime example of, you know, when I took part in the Maltesers advert, you know, Maltesers, their revenue went up by a staggering amount. I mean, it wasn't just solely down to my commercial. There was 2 other amazing commercials, you know, in that series. But, you know, like that, they basically sold a shitload more chocolate than they had done in 6 years, yeah? And that's because they had 3 amazing disabled protagonists at the heart of their commercials. Now, I received quite a lot of backlash because people were like, hang on a minute, there's this cripple on the telly making loads of money. I don't like it. I don't like it. And that was probably only a very small proportion of society that are online idiots and start trolling. But I genuinely believe, because I pitched to the company, I said, why don't we do a series? Why don't we do, because for those of you who haven't seen the Maltesers advert, I basically run over a bride's foot at a wedding, and everyone's like, oh my god, that is horrendous, you ruined the wedding. But I was like, nah, I left with the best man's number, so I got mine, and I said,
That's based in real life, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and I said, why don't we do? I know, genuine. That was like, I do that all the time. I said, why don't we do like a series? Like now I'm on the first date with the best man, or now I'm shacked up, pregnant with the best man, and they kind of didn't go for it. And I hand on heart think it's because instead of listening to the sales, they were actually more concerned with, but people don't like seeing, we've got such backlash, we've got such, kind of trolling, because I know that it was intense. They weren't telling me the half of the abuse that was online. But I actually do. I mean, we see it, and God bless, I don't know the lady's name. She was a CBBC presenter, and she's only got one arm. And I know a lot of parents complained about her, saying it's going to traumatize my child. And I suppose, I'm sure there was a time when, there were, people said, I don't want a black man on my TV screen, or I don't want to see a gay person. And I'm sure there was a lot of backlash for that. But somehow broadcasters were like, no, I'm going to take a cut. If 50% of people don't watch the program because there's a gay man presenting or a black man presenting, then I'm going to make that sacrifice. Because they obviously have made that sacrifice, because now we see much more BAME, much more LGBTQ plus, on our screen. So why is there this mental block? Like, disabled isn't sexy enough, disabled doesn't sell. But then you go online, like I go on Instagram and I follow some amazing disabled influencers. I'm actually quite jealous. Like, they've got thousands upon thousands of followers, like they're like making so much money from being brand, kind of influencers for different brands. So I don't get it. You've got that one side, so I'm proper rambling, aren't I? You've got that side of online kind of really, really amazing disabled talent, yet on our screens, you don't. So what's going wrong?
There is a disconnect. There is a disconnect. And I think partly it's because, and I've had this debate many times before, is that, there isn't a lot of deaf and disabled talent in the producing ranks. There isn't a lot of deaf and disabled talent in the commissioning ranks. There's more and more disabled talent coming through those ranks, but they're not there at the moment. They're not the decision makers. And because they're not the decision makers, and disability isn't necessarily in the sphere of being in those decision makers' lives, it's not reflected. For example, CBeebies does have, or at least they did, I don't know if she's still there at the moment, and I can't remember her name for the life of me, which is terrible. I apologise.
Really sorry if you're listening. None of us know your name. Yeah. We need to Google it.
We need to Google everybody's name. But there was a wheelchair using commissioner at CBeebies. Guess what? CBeebies has some of the best disability representation on television.
Likewise, within BBC Daytime at the moment, I think they've done a really good job in increasing their disability representation. And I know that one of the commissioning editors there is disabled. So, that is where you see the impact. And I think, I genuinely, I engage with a lot of people at, quite senior level, actually, in broadcasters. And it's probably because they go, oh, God, there's another email from them.
You hound them. I love you. Like, you're like a dog with a bone. Like, literally, you go for it, which I love, which is why I love you, and I'm proud that you're my agent. Anyway, go on.
But that, I think the intention is absolutely there. There's a block to like following through. The very fact that Lee Ridley, who I look after, Lost Voice guy, won Britain's Got Talent in 2018. Now that's 2 years ago. because the next series is about to start. It's such a definitive moment, and at the time it was touted as the moment that the stigma of disability was broken. But the reality is, no broadcaster producer has yet put Lee on a panel show. Not one.
No, it's crazy.
Why wouldn't you?
Lee's got the talent to be on a panel show without question.
I mean, what my challenge now to the broadcasters and producers, when you're now making programming in the lockdown situation and having to think creatively and make the adjustments for everyone, there is now no excuse. Everyone is on an equal playing field. And what Lee proved was he's a funny guy who people like. That's it. So actually, about what you were saying, Sam, is I think the broadcasters do the British public a disservice in that if the British public like someone, they'll get behind them and they don't really care. Yeah, there'll be the people, there always will be, who dislike things. And Lee himself has said, not everyone's going to like my comedy. That's fine. Yeah. Not everyone's going to like everyone's music. That's it. It's nothing to do with whether he's disabled or not. So and this is it, it's just getting over that next hurdle. And I do think we're years behind. I know Adam Pearson has said, I can't remember, he always has a specific period of time. I don't know, he's obviously a soothsayer or something, where he says, I think, we're like 10 years behind. I'm maybe misquoting him, but he says he thinks we're a certain period of time behind where, for example, we are with BAME representation. And I think he's absolutely right. And, I've done my own research, hours of compiling research, of pinpointing where disabled people, or physically disabled people, I should say, have made appearances on entertainment and factual entertainment shows. So not the likes of things like Sam has done, or maybe you've done, Dan, where you've been in either fronted things yourself, or you've been in even like documentaries or things like that. I mean, like the likes of, panel shows, or even, fact end shows. And I think I've managed to get, in fact, I'm going to just check while we're on.
Go for it.
On here.
Andrew, can I just say, you probably need to get out a little bit more. I'm a bit concerned by your comment. It's all right. Once we are out of seclusion or hibernation, as I call it, I will enroll you on a couple of hobbies. Let's go wine tasting or something.
Excuse me,
that.
I have recently stripped and painted a radiator, right?
I was wondering where you were going there. We are going to do a late night version of this podcast, and where we all are going to be semi-naked. So you're welcome to come back for that.
Lovely. Yeah. Nobody needs that. So I've identified 32 physically disabled people in the history, let's just say, of UK television, who between them have made 146 appearances.
On a personal level, I'd be really interested to see that list.
I'll send it to you. 14 on radio.
Okay.
Okay, can you give that to me? Because maybe I can put it in one of my Metro columns.
Yeah, sure.
But actually, speaking of my Metro column, I've got one coming out today, and I think on a wider scale, what's going on at the moment, with COVID and how disabled people have been kind of, treated, with all these bills flying around, with the British, Institute of Medicine saying that disabled people won't get ventilators because they're deemed not to survive. I'll tell you something, I've been through hell and back, and I think when you're disabled, your body's been through so much, your body don't want to let go. Like, we are little fighters, more so than most people. So I think, what we're seeing in the entertainment industry is, like you said, unconscious bias. It's this ingrained attitude that disabled lives are not as valued or not as equal as other lives. But, the figures are there. Like, we are the fastest growing minority. We cannot hide from the fact we've got an aging population. medical advancements means that, people with disabilities have, living longer and living very successful lives. And, there's 1 in 5 people in this country that have a disability. And it, I made a comment the other day when, you remember, we were all at the event, forgotten what the event was. But I said I was keynote speaker, and I said, you might not know who the disabled talent are, but in the disability world, myself, Dan, Adam, we are celebrities. People bloody know who we are. Just because you're so ignorant and you can't be bothered to Google who disabled influencers are, doesn't mean that we don't exist. Another rant. I think it's all the
You're in a ranting mood today, but I like
You know what?
it.
I didn't sleep very well. I got bitten to death by a mosquito. Like, seriously. Even my cat woke up and she was licking where it had stung me, because she was like, "Oh, that must be sore." I know, it's quite cute, but
Medical
equally
cat.
annoying.
Medical cat.
I've had about 50 cups of tea this morning and coffee, so I'm a little bit
wired.
Jittery.
Yeah, you're wired.
Andrew, I kind of want to know, because I get asked quite a lot. I get a lot of emails and messages and on Twitter or whatever, and people kind of want. God bless them. I mean, it's lovely that they think I can magically kind of create opportunities for them, work-wise, or kind of get them into the industry. Part of me is going, hey, I need to get work myself. But I think a lot of people want to know, first of all, what does an agent do? How do you get an agent? And kind of like, I just want you to tell people like what your role is as an agent, and what tips have you got, I suppose, for people who want to start in the industry? And particularly at the moment, we've got a lot of time on our hands. It's probably a really good time to make the most of this kind of this void that we've got at the moment. That's probably 3 questions in one.
That was a lot.
So okay, first of all, what does an agent do? How would you go about getting an agent, and what would bring your attention to somebody to say, I want you on your books?
So I think the best way of describing what an agent is, and if I meet a new client, this is what I say, is that we're creating a business together. So Samantha Rank Limited, and you're like the creative director and I'm the business director of that company. And there are definitely those two things overlap for sure. I mean, essentially as an agent, what I am is I'm a salesperson. I'm the equivalent of a estate agent, but I'm dealing with people rather than houses.
You haul me out in no.
Is an interesting term.
I said it.
But yeah, I mean, we're a whole load of different things. I guess we're like brand managers, we're personal managers, we're business managers. It's multifaceted. If someone wants an agent, and the thing is, I do get approached quite a bit, particularly now by disabled people, and I actually genuinely feel bad because I'm getting approached by amazing people, but I can't do a disservice to my current clients and take on loads of people, because then I can't do the job that I'm meant to do. So what I get frustrated about, and there are some other agents out there who have some or one disabled client, which is fantastic. But I actually think there's a challenge and actually a responsibility on other agents to look at their lists and say, wait a minute, what am I missing out on here? Because I would love more agents to take on more disabled people and more disabled people to be on screen. I'm always recommending other people who I don't represent, because actually the more people are booked, the better for everyone. And it's that kind of approach. So, but it's very difficult to define what someone we should have, because I can't put that in words. It is a bit like a relationship. I just feel something or I see something. Like the minute we met, Sam, I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just
Well, of course.
work
I mean,
with it.
everyone thinks that about me. I mean,
No, it's
and
just,
I just don't know why I'm still single and living with a cat. It's just, if the male population saw what you see in me, Andrew, I'd be a very lucky woman right now. I really
but
would.
it's just, it is difficult to define. I mean, don't get me wrong, there have to be certain things. What has that person got going on? What are their ideas? Do I get a sense of their work ethic? All those kind of different facets. Do I think I can work with them? Do they think they can work with me? But it's a really difficult thing to define. And what were your other questions?
Well, if I may just interject into that. Sorry, Dan. I know I'm like talking a lot.
It's fine.
I think also, I think a lot of people, like you said right at the beginning, it is a relationship, and I have to put in 110%, because even though you are the person, Andrew, that will negotiate fees, will make sure that I'm getting the right information, make sure that all my everything's booked for me. You're my wingman, and you're the one that really drives me. But also, because I get a lot of people that just think that things land on your plate. I think if you have to be proactive, you have to be like I send just as many emails as Andrew does. I am working on my social media. I am, networking with people. I am reaching out to people. So it's, even though an agent is absolutely fantastic, and I would be lost without you, and it's great to delegate a lot of the traffic that comes my way. Because I get a lot of people contacting me on social media, and I'm like, oh, I can't handle. So I give that all to Andrew, and he can filter through all the people that are maybe worth contacting or not. But you have to invest in yourself. I've been in London 8 years now. I've been with Andrew just for about a year. I had another agent for a couple of years, but a lot of what the groundwork I've done myself. And you've got to, if you are really committed about being an actor, being a presenter, being in the creative arts, you really, really have to have your own work ethic, and you've got to invest hours every day into putting them feelers out there. Getting on Twitter. I hated Twitter, and now I've got over 10,000 followers, and that's only in 18 months, which I think is quite an achievement. You know what I mean? So you've got to be realistic. And I think a lot of people out there maybe are under an illusion that the talent, just because you're talented, you'll get everything. No, you've got to really, really put a lot of hard work into it, and you've got to, particularly when you're disabled, you've got to scream loud, because to make people listen to you.
I was going to say, I think one of your questions was about what advice, particularly people breaking in to the industry. The thing I get most frustrated about is hearing some disabled people say, and when I say frustrated, I don't mean angry with them. I mean frustrated on their behalf. It's not for me. I won't be able to do it. The opportunities aren't there. Please don't assume that. Absolutely not. As you say, you have got to put in your own work and make way. But I think you've got to tackle it. And it is tricky because obviously not everyone's wired the same way. But there are different ways you can do it. You've got to force people to make the decisions. And frankly, if in doubt, just quote the Equality Act.
Yeah.
And I say that slightly flippantly, but there is law out there that it says, there are protected groups, and under the Equality Act, reasonable adjustments have to be made. And I know that can be interpreted in different ways, but know your rights, know your value, and don't. But the main thing I would say is do not assume that it's not something, or do not assume it's something you can't do, because that's like that is the equivalent of the people putting up the barriers that shouldn't be there. You're creating a barrier for yourself. I mean, be realistic. The entertainment industry, irrespective of whether you're disabled, non-disabled, is a really tough competitive industry. I would say to anyone, don't go into it if you're faint-hearted. You've got to accept, whether it is up and down, it's a roller coaster. There's no guarantees. There's often no prize for getting second place. It is tough. It's really tough. And you've got to make that decision. Like similar to me. What I do, I've got to accept. And this is the one thing about being an agent. I feel the wins as much as the losses as well, because if my clients don't get something, I don't get it, frankly. So you've got to be resilient, you've got to have a thick skin. Do not expect things just to happen. You have to create things. This is the perfect time in many ways. That's what I've said to a lot of my clients. All those things you've been thinking about doing, writing, developing, this is precious time that you won't get back. This is like incubating all the things, incubation time for all the things you've been thinking about doing. And actually, in many ways, you've got a captive audience in terms of particularly producers who are on hold with productions, or current development work, to get stuff in front of them that you might not normally have the opportunity to do. So, there's a huge reality check in that, as I say, it doesn't matter who you are, this industry is tough.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change.
Yeah. I totally agree. Dan, have you got any wise words in these times? Because we were talking about the gatekeepers, and at the moment, like, broadcast is on hold.
It is.
But we need more people behind the cameras, disabled, talent. So what would your advice be at the moment?
My advice at the moment, I'm not a behind the camera bod, but I've worked with quite a few of them. There's things like, and it comes in fits and starts, but keep your eye out for things like BBC Writers' Room if you're a writer. Keep your eye out for things like the Disabled Artist Networking Community, DANK. They've always got workshops and stuff going on.
They've got some brilliant stuff going on at the moment.
So look at them on Twitter and all the social media type stuff.
Follow Equity.
Follow Equity, indeed. Equity are also, if you are a performer and you are in the creative industries, I do a lot of work with Equity, that's no secret, but I'd recommend, there is power in numbers. It can be quite a lonely existence if you work in the arts. So if you can become part of the Writers' Union or Equity or BECTU or any of the trade unions, I suggest you do, because you never know when you're going to need a hand. And there,
there's the Arts Council as well, isn't there?
The Arts Council, yeah. The Arts Council. If you want to create something and you don't have the money and you think you could do with a bit of funding, if your work is good, there's places like the Arts Council and Unlimited that fund deaf and disabled artists to create stuff.
BFI?
Yeah,
BFI, brilliant.
BFI, if you're into,
I know the BFI at the moment have got a grant scheme. I think they're giving about £500 out to projects at the moment.
Yeah.
Because they're, there's things out there, isn't there, Dan?
There is. You have to look for them, though. It's like you say, Sam, you have to be proactive. You have to, look for these things. Look at the BFI, look at the Arts Council, look at Equity, look at BECTU, look at the Writers Guild, look at the BBC. Because essentially, it's a catch-22. They argue that there's
would do worse. Sorry, Dan, to interrupt you. I was going to say they would do worse than anybody would, on a basic level, should just follow you guys on social media.
Oh,
because, but true, because not only what you're doing, but also what you obviously share from both your positions. Even as myself and also as the company, even stuff that we're not involved with, if it relates to predominantly disability, I will share it. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. You're totally true. But do follow deaf and disabled performers and artists on social media, because if we get a bigger following, great for us. Thanks very much. But B, we do share stuff because I'm not gonna fit every acting role. but I will get through equity or through casting directors coming to me going, Dan, do you know anybody that could fit? Is there anybody that I can talk to? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? So we do share stuff, and Sam, I know you do the same. So do follow fellow deaf and disabled artists, performers. You know, lots of actors follow casting directors on Twitter as well, but especially within the disabled community, follow your fellow disabled performers.
Oh, completely. I think I get quite a lot of people are quite surprised if I will tweet about, particularly if I get asked to do something for news and I can't do it because I've got another commitment, or I'm having a manicure because so in priorities, and I will always tweet it and go, look, I can't do this. It's about sharing the wealth. And like Dan said, there'll be things that I am definitely not suited for. But instead of keeping that to myself, I would rather, have someone more representation on screen and share that. So it is about being, I suppose, probably not so self-centered in that respect. And because I know, because Andrew said it's such a competitive environment, but I think sometimes that competitiveness means that we don't want to share. We don't want. We don't want. It's like me going, "Oh, I'm not going to give it to them because I don't want them getting it." Instead of me, I don't think we should have that approach, particularly when we are looking at a minority group that is so underrepresented. And I think
actually, sorry, Sam. Yeah. I really want to say this before I forget. The other people I think that are worth following are the charities such as Scope, MenCat, National Autistic Society, Changing Faces. I mean, like through Changing Faces, Adam Pearson got his role in Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson. Both Scope and MenCat do really good stuff. The other thing is the National Theatre's and Spotlight's profile database for disabled actors.
Indeed.
Like, people need to check that out because apart from anything else, you don't have to pay to be part of it. I think.
No, you don't.
And I have seen an increase in the castings coming through for our disabled clients who act, not really through Spotlight, to be honest, but through, I think the casting directors are calling because they've seen our clients on that database.
Yeah. I think you're probably right, to be honest. I think one kind of a final thought, if there are any any broadcasters out there listening to our lovely podcast, but what message would you have to these gatekeepers? And be quite blunt if you want to. We might make it into a soundbite and like post it everywhere. But what like in these times, if they're thinking, oh my goodness, everything's on hold at the moment. When we get back, we need some new talent. We need to like shake things up a little bit. What message do you have for the gatekeepers that really aren't pulling their weight and really are doing, a disservice and disjustice to people with disabilities?
Well, I think I said it earlier. There are loads of disabled people in the industry out there who are ready, willing, and able to work. So just book them, just commission them. It's not difficult. Stop talking about it. Stop having meetings. Stop having events. Whilst they're important, we can't keep having them and saying, oh, disability is really important. And then the figures year on year don't get better in terms of representation. So, frankly, just get on with it. I know that's really matter of fact, and it sounds like I'm being almost like a bit dismissive. I'm not actually, but I think there is a tendency to overtalk this, overthink this. The people are out there and are more than able to do it. I mean, I have got a raft of ideas with likes of you, Sam, attached, with producers, with Lee, with Adam. I mean, they're brilliant, hilarious, funny, noisy, for want of a horrendous media term. The stuff is, the talent's out there, the ideas are out there, and actually loads of producers are out there, wanting to work with talent, disabled talent, and to pitch them in. a number of commissioners are wanting to hear it, but the funnel neck needs to just open and just, just get on with it. I just don't understand why, when there are like you guys, the clients who I represent, the likes of Rosie Jones, Chris McCausland, Tim Renko, Sophie Morgan, all, just brilliant, professionally adept people who should just be, when you think, and I'm going to call out one specific thing actually, when you think that there have been, I think now, 18 series of I'm a Celebrity on ITV, and there still hasn't been a physically disabled person on that series, that's just not acceptable. And don't get me wrong, there would have to be some conversations about how things would need to happen, but in the same way when they've had some slightly older contestants on who haven't then taken part in challenges because of their health needs or whatever, well, there you go. That's the way to do it.
Exactly. You can throw spiders on me. That's fine. That's all good.
I'm not gonna lie, Sam. You're on your own on that one. Like you want to go live in the Australian jungle for a couple of months?
Why?
Have that.
Yeah, Strictly. Strictly has been good. In having disabled talent on. I think there should be more. I think there should be different types of disability represented on that program. But for example, why shouldn't there be a wheelchair user like Samantha Rink on?
See now, Strictly, I can get on board with. I can do the sequins. Like that works for me, but the spiders, they're all yours.
Pink sequence. Whoa, yes,
you want to see me in one of those like cut to the navel?
In lycra.
Actually, Dan, I would also quite happily like to see that.
People will actually. On that note,
but you know what? And I think that the thing is, the public. Let's not forget, a lot of these programs are in series 19, whatever they are. Spice it up a bit.
Yeah.
Have I Got News for You? I think last year, for the first time, had a physically disabled comedian on. Now that series started in the 90s. And and Chris McCausland, he was brilliant. He's done 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. He was brilliant. And actually he was brilliant because he's funny.
Yeah.
And brings a different element to it, but also brings a new audience to it. And as I was saying earlier, when people are so desperate to engage with audiences, why would you not want to do that?
Indeed, because you've got all the streaming providers, all of those kind of things. The fight for eyeballs is stronger than it's ever been. So the best way to get those new eyeballs onto your product is to diversify your product.
Yeah.
Looking at the comments while we're here, because people are watching live and commenting in.
I forgot. I just thought we were going to
Lisa S has kindly informed us that it's Kerry Brunel that was the CBBC presenter. Thank you for using Google. Lucy Edwards says it's been a fabulous chat. And,
lovely, Lucy.
And Amy Bolin, who follows us on Twitter, is complimenting your eyeshadow and top, Sam. She thinks it's
a dress.
It's a dress, even better. But then,
actually, it's a skirt, but I pulled it up to be a dress. Boom.
There you go. Benefits of being like supersized.
Tiny.
Supersized tiny, yeah.
That's free shopping.
See, accessible fashion, everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a show in itself, isn't it?
Indeed.
Just saying.
I can male model.
I am conscious of the time because we always like to keep it under 50 minutes, and we're just about. Is that right? Yeah, I've not got my glasses on.
Yeah.
Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we are going to share this far and wide because I think more people need to hear what you're saying because you are speaking a lot of sense.
Indeed.
So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule because I know that you are still extremely busy. And it's been a pleasure. I am proud to have you as my agent. I am proud to have you as an ally and an advocate for the disability community because we need more people like you who aren't disabled but actually care about people like myself and Dan. So I can't thank you enough. Yeah, keep in touch. We will share this on all our platforms.
Indeed.
Dan will show you how to share it as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I mean, depending on how long this is gonna last, we will love to get you back on.
I would love
Dan?
to come back on. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you for coming. So, guys, basically, this will work as it always does. As soon as we hit stop, it'll be on YouTube for you to watch at your perusal. Feel free to add comments below. Apparently, that's a thing on YouTube. Then I will sit in my little technical den, edit it up, and it will be on all the normal podcast channels, hopefully by the end of today. So, we hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. I'm not sure what we're going to name this one. We haven't come up with a name. Come on, Sam. What are we naming this one?
The Roach.
The Roach. Joined by the Roach. All right. So,
The Roach.
joined by the Roach. That could be a very different podcast.
I know it could. We might have to work on the title, but we'll get something spiffy.
We will. We will. But yeah, thank you guys for those of you that have watched it live. We hope you've enjoyed it. For those of you watching on catch up and listening on the normal podcast channels, we hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to share it because, like we say, more people need to hear Andrew's honest conversation. And yeah, let's change the industry so that it's not business as usual after lockdown. And let's see more deaf and disabled people on TV. I have not been Samrick. Sam has been Sam. See, it's live, everybody. I have been Dan Edge.
I have been Samantha Rank.
We have been joined by the lovely Andrew Roach. And this has been Life Downloaded Live. Take care, guys. Look after yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.